All right. Go ahead.
So we only have one exam on the last day.
Correct.
That's not good here,
Number 1, 11,250 millimeters. Number 2, 1 gram equals 100 centigrams. Number 3, 4 liters. Number 4, 0.00135 meters squared. And number 5, 9 million cubic centimeters. Questions on any of those?
No.
All right, 6. I have 11 wholes, 24 partials. Divided by 2 gives you 12. So 11 plus 12 gives you 23. You are told that each side has a side length of 1 meter, so it's 1 square meter, 23 square meters.
I get it. I'm stealing your red card. I swear I'll bring it back. I swear.
Okay, we're recording, so everybody's going to know that you're swearing. That
I'm swearing I'll bring the card back.
All right, questions on this? And everybody get 23?
Yeah. I get 21.9.
I got 21.
Okay, so if you're taking the exam and you come up with 21 or 22.5, what are you going to do? What would you do?
Recount them.
Okay, but if you
Pick the one you're closest to.
pick the one that you're closest to, if you're fairly confident that your answer is correct, choose the one that's closest. Okay? All right, 7. You are asked to find the number of liters in Lake Huron. So that means you're finding volume. Area of the base times the height. Since you're working with liters, you want to use decimeters. You're given the surface area, you're given the average depth, and the maximum depth. It makes more sense to use average depth than maximum depth, because if you use maximum depth, you're saying that the entire thing is that depth. It's best to take the average. So take the surface area, multiply it by the depth, and you get this really huge number. Questions? All right, 8. Explain the steps you would need to take to do this, and then do those steps to write the equation. So, he already found the slope. So then you're going to use point slope form. Substitute in the values for x1, y1, and the slope. So that gives you y plus 4 equals 2 times x minus 2. Distribute, subtract 4 from both sides, and your equation is y equals 2x minus 8.
Wait, keep that up.
Questions? Number 9. You are asked, what is the volume of Lake Erie? Volume equals the base times the height. Typically, most of your answers are going to be answered in liters, so you want to use decimeters. This column has kilometers and meters. Everything here is converted to decimeters. Again, you want to use surface area because that's the area of your base, and you want to use average depth because that indicates your height. So surface area times the average depth gives you the volume of the lake. Number 10 asks you to find the slope using the first and last points. So your slope is equal to 2.75 over 5.25, which is approximately 0.5238. What would be the approximate point slope equation for the above scatter plot if the first and last points are selected? Here's your first and last points. Y minus y1 equals 0.523 times x minus 0.75. Questions? Number 12. A A asks you to calculate the absolute value of the residual for both equations. Absolute value is found by taking observed minus predicted. So you have 7.1 minus 7, which gives you 0.1. 16.8 minus 17 gives you a negative 0.2, but because we're working with absolute value, it's going to be positive 0.2. And then you have 0.5, 1, and 0.5. Next we have the other function, observed minus the predicted. 7.1 minus 7.2 gives you 0.1. 16.8 minus 17 gives you a negative 0.2, which is 0.2 for absolute value. 0.7, 0.6, 0.1. B asks you to determine which line is a better fit. And here's your hint. Find the average of the absolute values of residuals to compare. This set of data has an average of 0.46. This set of data has an average of 0.34. Smaller value is a better line of fit. So y equals 1.96x minus 2.6 is the better line.
The smaller one's always the better line.
Yes. Questions? Match the appropriate correlation for each of the following scatter plots. If the points are really close together, the correlation is going to be close to 1 or negative 1. If it has a positive slope, it's going to be close to 1. If it has a negative slope, it's going to be close to negative 1. So for A, these are pretty scattered about. They still have somewhat of a positive correlation. So they will have a value of 0.25. For B, they're not in a completely straight line, but they're pretty positive. So they have a correlation value of 0.85. C, all trending downwards, which is a negative slope. So it has a correlation value of negative 1. Questions on those?
Why is it not 1.5? Negative 1.5.
Because if they're all in a close line, it's negative 1. It's perfect correlation, perfect negative correlation.
It can't be 1.5.
Correct. It's going to fall between negative 1 and 1. Okay? 13. You have the bunny's age in weeks, representing the x values, and the length in centimeters, representing the y values. Your change in x is 2. Your change in y is 4. So that gives you a slope of 2. Write the equation in slope-intercept form to represent the situation. So you have y minus 10 equals 2 times x minus 2. Distribute and add 10 to both sides, and you have y equals 2x plus 6.
I got the right answer, but I don't know how.
Found the slope.
Yeah, I don't see where I found that.
I found the slope like this, like 16 on this
Just-
side and 8 on this side.
Yeah, I did the change in x up here, and I did the change in y down here.
Okay, I see where I did that now. Alright.
4 over 2.
Yeah.
And then use y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Here's your x1 and y1 right here.
I got minus 6, not plus 6.
I'm going to guess you looked at I don't know what you did. Because you have negative 4 and then you add 10. Negative 4 plus 10 is 6.
Oh, that makes sense, yeah.
B asks you to use your equation and predict the bunny's length after 18 weeks. So you're predicting length, which is a y value, and you're given the time, which is 18. So the 18 goes in for the x. 2 times 18 plus 6 equals 42 centimeters. 14, A, 56 cubic meters. B, 1,413.72 cubic inches. C,
Dang, I did this one wrong.
it's a triangular prism. Find the area of the triangle, because that is the base, and multiply it by the height of the prism.
Oh, I didn't put the 4 in there.
Don't forget, you have to include the height of the prism.
How do you know B is meters?
How do you know that B is what?
You put an
Inches. IN.
N.
I know, I did a double take too, because I can't make my own writing. D, the base is a trapezoid. So find the area of the trapezoid, which is 1/2 times 11 plus 22 times 5. And then multiply it by the height of the prism, which is 12. So you have a volume of 990 cubic centimeters. Number of hours spent watching TV. So on the X is days, on the Y is hours.
I was wondering if you needed binders.
I don't, but there was a box out by the garbage can
Okay.
to collect them. If you want to put it in there, that'd be great.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. So days, hours. Skeeters. We're using a new equation. Y equals A times B to the X. Y is going to be your total value or your total population. A is your initial population. B is your factor. Remember to find the factor, it's 1 plus the growth rate. And then X is going to be your number of years. So for 16, the value of a $12,000 car is expected to decrease by $5,000 or 5% during the next year. What would be the equation that would model the situation? 12,000 is your initial value. It's decreasing by 5%. So that means you have a negative 0.05 growth rate. Add 1 to it, and then your factor is 0.95. So your equation is 12,000 times 0.95 to the X. When you're asked to write an equation, you leave the X and the Y alone, and you fill in the other values that you need.
That's why you don't put like 1 for X.
Right, because you're just asked to write an equation. 17, what type of equation would best represent this data in a scatter plot? It's Y equals A times B to the X. The equation, Y equals 5 times 3 to the X. Because your initial population is 5, your growth rate is 2, so that means your factor is 3. So that's where we get the 3 from.
But where'd you get the growth rate from?
New minus old divided by old.
That's on our note sheet.
Yep.
Okay.
15 minus 5 divided by 5. Any other questions on that one? 18, what is the factor? Your factor is 5, right there in your equation. 19, these were supposed to be all nice, consistent growth rates, but the first one wasn't, the rest of them were. So, I took the consistent growth rate, 0.5, added 1 to it to find my factor, and we started with 2. So Y equals 2 times 1.5 to the X. 20, how much is in the account after 8 years? Your growth rate is 3.5%, so that means that your factor is 1.035. Your initial value is 400. So y equals 400 times 1.035 to the 8th power. Gives you $526.72. What does the independent variable represent? It is the time. Could have been number of shakes. B, the dependent variable is the population of bacteria or the total population. 22, what would be the value of B in the equation? So your growth rate is a negative 0.15 because it's decreasing. So negative 0.15 plus 1 gives you 0.85 for your factor. 23, your initial value is 0.15. Population changes by a factor of 1.5. What's the growth rate? Factor minus 1 gives you the growth rate as a decimal. Move your decimal 2 places to the right, and it's equal to 50%. What factor would be represented by a decrease of 3%? So your growth rate is negative 0.03. Add 1 to it, your factor is 0.97. Y equals 1.25 times 3 to the x. So you're substituting your value of x into the equation. So you get 1.25, 3.75, 11.25, 33.75, and 101.25. The factor, new minus old divided by old. You get 36 divided by 12, which is 3. Add 1 to that, and your factor is 4. Questions? The circumference of a circle is 113.1 centimeters. What is the diameter of that circle? Circumference equals pi times the diameter. It also equals 2 pi r. But since we're looking for the diameter, it's easier just to use this formula. So you have 113.1 equals pi times d, divide both sides by pi. The exact answer is 113.1 divided by pi. The approximate answer is 36 centimeters.
On the test, do we have to show all of our work, or are you just using like the Scantron?
Just using the scan. So I'm not looking for your work. Questions on that one? 29. Determine the volume. I have 15 wholes, 21 partials. So that gives me 15 plus 10.5. And each square has a side length of 1 kilometer. So that means each square has an area of 1 square kilometer. So the area is 25.5 square kilometers. Change it to decimeters, and you get 2,550,000,000 decimeters squared. Take your area, multiply it by your depth. Do a conversion first. So area times the depth gives you a volume of 6,120 liters. By looking at the graph, you should know that it's an inverse proportion. Inverse proportions have the equation y times x equals k. So y is 3, x is 2, so y times x equals 6. get y by itself and divide both sides by x. So your equation is y equals 6 divided by x.
Wait, how many zeros are there for number 29?
For which part?
Like that you multiply the, like it says volume equals, and then how many zeros are there?
I have
those
7.
parentheses. Yeah.
For the depth, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The area of a circle is 25 pi. What is the radius of the circle? Formula for area is pi times radius squared. Your area is 25 pi. That equals pi r squared. Divide both sides by pi. R squared equals 25. The square root. R equals 5. Determine the equation that represents the data. So you have to divide to see if it's directly proportional or multiply to see if it's inversely proportional. We have the same constant by multiplying, and x times y gave us 48. Divide both sides by x, and your equation is y equals 48 divided by x.
Multiply the inverse, it said. And then divide.
Yep, we multiplied 2 times 24 gave us 48. 24 divided by 2 gave us 12. Same process. You're going to divide to see if it's directly proportional or multiply to see if it's inversely proportional. 60 divided by 10, 120 divided by 20, all of those give us 6. So it's a direct proportion.
For the 80 divided by 13.3, I got 6.01. Would you just keep it at 6?
Yeah. Because if you took 80 and divided it by 13.3 repeating, it'd be exactly 6. 34. Neither for A, neither for B, inversely proportional for C. D is neither. If it's directly proportional, it goes through the origin and it's linear. What is the radius? You are given the area of the spill to be 22 kilometers squared. So 22 equals pi r squared. Divide both sides by pi. Take the square root, and the radius is approximately 2.646. The equation of a direct proportion, y equals m times x, and an inverse proportion, y equals k divided by x. But remember to find your constants. You divide to find the direct proportion, and you multiply to find the inverse proportion. Determine the area of the spill in square decimeters. To find the area of the spill, you are taking the volume and dividing it by the Hudson. So we have the volume to be 8,370 liters. Divide that by the thickness. This is in centimeters, and you need to convert it to decimeters. And you have an area of 17,081,632.65 square decimeters.
You know how when we move over the decimal place when it's in that form and then we move it to decimeters, why do we do that? See how you did like 0.0049 centimeters? Why did you move it over from?
I took it from scientific notation and changed it to standard notation.
Oh, okay.
And then I changed from centimeters to decimeters. Okay? 38, the relationship of an oil spill area and volume are directly proportional. Your mean radius should be about 1.5, 1.6. On the test, there's actually lines that you're supposed to measure it, so we won't have to.
I got 3.5.
Take 4 or 5 places, measure them, add them together, and divide by
How
the
many
number
you
of
did.
pieces, data that you have.
What if you got 1.7?
It's fine. That's fine.
I got 3.5.
It's wrong.
2.1.
It's too high, I think.
It's okay.
It won't. You won't have that much guesswork on the test because, like I said, there's like 3 or 4 tick marks that are outlined for you. 40. The scale factor of the actual to the model. 7 to 49. 1 to 7.
On the test, are they gonna the answer like the AB or whatever, like the multiple choice, going to be in reduced form?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
So whichever number comes first is the number of the fraction.
Whatever one they're asking for first, the actual house goes on top.
I didn't understand that house. I thought house was taller.
Because it obviously should be changed somehow. The question, because it's not correct.
That house went in 49 over 7.
If I change the problem, yeah.
I think math is the only
That was
subject
good.
where I don't question what the problem is.
It's confusing.
People can buy 50 watermelons and no
Nice. All right. If the company increases the volume of wax for each candle by a factor of 16, what is the scale factor? So volume is 16. You need the scale factor. So you're taking the cube root of 16, which is 2.52. If the edge of a cube is doubled in length, what is the ratio of volumes? So the edge of a cube is the same thing as a scale factor. If it's being doubled, it's represented by the number 2. Ratio of volumes means you're cubing it, so your answer is 8. 44, you have a proportion. 3 per 15, x to 100. So how many kilograms of burger? 20. 45, ratio of areas. Write it as the image to pre-image. 20 to 6, I reduced it, and then you square it. Ratio of areas is the side length squared.
I started off with 6 over 20 squared, and then I got 36 over 400. Is that wrong? It's not pre-image.
You won't find that answer on your exam because for one, it's not written as image to pre-image, and for another, because you haven't reduced it. Okay? Any other questions on that? $46. X equals 2.7. 47. How many miles would you drive in 15 days? 3,750. 48. The ratio of volumes.
Does it matter which one goes on?
Image to pre-image. 4 to 9, and you cube it.
Why does the teeny one go on top?
Because sometimes you're reducing things. If you have a house that you like and you want to have it built, you need to have it shrunk down to put on paper for a blueprint.
Okay.
So sometimes you do reduce.
Okay. How do you know when you do though?
It will always be the image to pre-image unless it says different.
Right.
It's always right.
Always take the
Yeah.
second one and put it over the first one.
Okay.
Unless it says,
Otherwise.
yeah.
Gotcha.
49. If you are similar to Robert Wadlow and his height is 272 centimeters and his shoe length is 47, how tall are you if your shoe length is 22? Set up a proportion, and your height is 127. 50. You need to simplify, so this becomes a cubed over b cubed. 51. He wants to reduce the area of his field by 1/9. So this is your area. You need to find the scale factor. Square root of 1/9 is 1/3. So 1/3 times 60 gives you 20, and 1/3 times 80 gives you 26.6 repeating. (52) Side, angle, side. 53, cube root of -64 is -4. 54, B and C are congruent by side, side, side. 55, A and D. You can do angle, angle, side. Angle, angle, side.
Which side angle side?
But you're not given a second side on this one,
Oh,
so you can't use that. 56, Julie wants to double the area of her pattern on her rectangular napkin. Her friend tells her that she will just need to double the length and width of her napkin. Do you agree with her friend? Doubling the length and the width will make it 4 times bigger, not 2 times bigger. 57, cube root of 1,728 is 12. Cube root of 64 is 4, which simplifies to 3. The first step in solving is 4 times x minus 4 and 2 times 12. We're done.
Wait,
Question.
can you put the,
Yep.
yeah, just leave it out there.
Any questions?